Hello, it's Uncle Jim. Man, I'm going to have to raise this chair now. Anyway, today we're going to test out the Lube Bulge Buster, and it will do 40, 10 millimeter, 45, and 380. So there's two models. One is your standard, like sizing bullets, and the other one's for the APP. This one's cheaper. I only have to do it once, so I went cheap. And it works great on the 4-hole turret press, and I'll show you why. Alright, so it comes with your plug here, your stem to push them through. And it's hollow in the middle in case you have to use a prime piece of brass or a loaded round, which comes in handy sometimes. Say you loaded some rounds and one didn't plunk test at the very end here in your gauge, your checker, or your barrel, and you don't want to pull the bullet. Well, you can just run her right through. So, and then you have this piece, and they work together with your factory crimp dies that have the carbide ring. Okay? So luckily I have these in 45, 380, and 10 millimeter. This one isn't on a turret because I'm not using that one, but anyway. So it's really easy to do. What you do is you have your crimp die here. Take that off. You take this off. Make sure you put it back the right way when you're done. And then you just screw this piece on here and put it on the press, and it'll have instructions how much to protrude to make sure it goes through. And luckily for me, on the turret press, I don't have to touch a thing. That's the great thing about this. So this one's a 45, so we're not using that. That's just an example. Now, I'm not a believer in debulging because you're weakening it down there, but I'm only doing it once, and I'm trying to save some 10 millimeter range brass, and then later on some 380, and maybe some 45 in case, one doesn't chamber. I can do it loaded. Okay, so I had some 10 millimeter range brass. You can see right here. It doesn't drop all the way in. You got to push it in there hard. Some more than others. And it's just slightly bulged right here because of a unsupported chamber. Now all my guns don't bulge. So even my Glock 4th gen, it doesn't bulge. It might expand a little more than my tight aftermarket chamber, but it doesn't bulge. So when I go to size it, it's fine. So usually what I do, you got to size them first, decap them. I'll size decap and I'll do this. And if they don't pass, I put them aside. So I got a batch over there. And in this case, I'm going to take that whole jar and do them all the same. So the volume's the same because it's going to squeeze down. And if I don't do some versus others, I just want them all the same. I'll do it once and it's good to go. So this is for me a one-shot deal because I don't want to say you have a gun that bulges every time. Well, if you keep doing that, you're going to make it weak. And in that spot where the feed ramp is, if it happens to fire in that same position again, you could blow out. So you got to watch out for that. So anyway, let's go over the press and see how it works. Okay, so this works really well on a turret press because you can go by and decap and then just take your shell holder out, put in the pin, the push rod, take out you can just open this up, take out the guts of your crimp die that has the carbide ring, super easy. And all you have to do when you're done is just reset your crimp, which is super easy. So we put this guy on, and then we have enough room on the turret for this. Okay, that'll retain your shells. Now I have rejects here that don't fit in the gauge. And you can lube or you can do it without lube. It's got a carbide ring, so, and you'll feel that bump going through. And some are a little harder than others. That was easy. The last one was hard. Now, I'm not going to re-clean this brass, so if you wanted to, you could use a light amount of lube, and I would recommend Lee's sizing lube because it's dry, and you don't need much. So these are not lubed, but with the Lee, it'll be dry and you can reload it. It's not going to affect primers or nothing. It's not greasy like other sizing lubricants. And I got a little packet of this in a dice set, and I was like, wow, this stuff works really good. So I keep it around for certain things. If I'm not retumbling the brass, that's what I use. I did a bunch of 223 and loaded them without having to clean the brass. So, and it takes very little to use. So, good stuff. They sold me. I'm glad they sent me a little packet, and I went and bought a big thing of it. But this was done dry. So now what I do, if you're ever bullet sizing and stuff, take a wire like this, all right, and push the rest through. That's a nice little trick to have. And now let's try a couple in the gauge, and now they drop right in and they drop right out. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this this whole batch so they're all the same. I don't have to dink around and check on the gauge when I decap them. Got a whole jar to do, and then once I'm done because my guns don't bulge brass. And I have a really tight aftermarket chamber for the Glock, and if it fits in this gauge, it works perfectly. My 1911 don't have to worry about. That's tight, and it's got a fully supported barrel, so I've already gone through that and checked all the rounds I've shot before, even the really hot ones. So, and then the standard Glock barrel will expand a little more when you measure with calipers. It'll expand the whole case a little more than the tight chamber will. However, when you size it, they're all the same. So this made my life super easy, and the beauty is I just take this off, reinstall my guts, and set my crimp, and everything's the same. I didn't have to screw in anything or adjust anything like you would on a single stage. It's all right here. And the distance was perfect from where I was set for crimping in the first place. That is pretty neat. I'm glad I got it, but it's something I won't do over and over again. I only have to do it once on this range brass, and it's a handy tool. All right, I hope you found that interesting. Until next time, America.